Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and another tipping video on the channel. Today I'll be going through my round 16 predictions and also going through what occurred in round 15. So yeah, let's get straight into the video. We'll start off. Round 15 was the last of the bye rounds. Now the opening clash was between Melbourne and Geelong down at GMHBA. And unfortunately, I tipped Melbourne, and Geelong managed to get the job done. A bit of a 50-50 game there, and yeah, just couldn't quite get that one. And again, in another 50-50 game, I predicted Brisbane to lose to the Saints, but obviously Brisbane got the job done pretty comfortably in the end and got another one incorrect, so not a very good start to the round. And then, what a game it was. Sydney racking up the double ton, easily in the end beat the Eagles. They are in a lot of trouble at the moment, the Eagles. And another 50-50 game. Tipped the Bombers in this one, and the Dockers managed to get the job done. So it was another one incorrect, so not a very good round so far. But I did manage to get the Collingwood game and Gold Coast game correct on the Sunday, meaning I got 3 out of 6 for the final round of the buys. In my opinion, it wasn't that great of a round for me, but yeah, you just got to take it. And yeah, well, my big calls, this is where it gets really bad. In the first game, I predicted Melbourne to kick the first 3 goals of the game, and that definitely did not happen. So, not a great start. And then in the Saints v Lions game, I predicted St Kilda had have 50 or more disposals than Brisbane, and they only had the 20 more, I believe. And Sydney versus West Coast, I predicted Chad Warner to have 35 or more disposals. I think he had 26 to 27, so incorrect there. And then Freo versus Essendon, I predicted both teams to combine for 190 plus points, and I believe they combined for something around 155, so incorrect there. And in the Collingwood versus Adelaide game, I predicted Myercheck to kick 4 more goals, and he didn't kick any, so that was really bad, that one. And in the Gold Coast versus Hawthorn game, I predicted Lewis and King to combine for 6 or more goals, and they only combined for 4, so I got them all wrong, which I don't think has happened. Well, at least not for a while, and I don't think even this year, so that was just a horrible round for me, and hopefully I can bounce back this week for round 16, and it's going to be a pretty hard round, in my opinion, to tip as well. But yeah, we're starting it off with Brisbane versus Richmond up at the Gabba. Now, this is a crucial game for Richmond, seeming they're one of the teams that are below the pack at the moment, that are trying to get into the 8, and Andrew McQuald has stepped in and done a fairly good job so far. They're coming off a bye and they'll be fresh. We all know what's happened this season, though, with teams coming off their bye. They tend to lose, except for, say, Kilda and Collingwood. You never know, though. I do see Richmond having a chance at this one. And Brisbane were, pretty good last week. Their defence was sensational against St Kilda. They really dominated that game. Probably should have won it by a little bit more, in my opinion. I did attend the game too, and it was pretty good to watch. Eric Hipwood kicked 4 goals. It was clearly the star of the performance. Harris Andrews led the way in defence. Had 13 something intercepts, 14 marks. It was fantastic. Because it's at the Gabba, you got to tip Brisbane. You just can't tip Richmond in an upset here because it is up at the Gabba. So Brisbane by 18 points in a fairly close game. And my big call, both teams kick 80 plus points. I reckon it'll be a high scoring clash. And now this one certainly will be interesting. Friday night footy, Swans and the Cats up at the SCG, which does give Sydney a chance. We all know what happened earlier in the year. It was the repeat of the grand final, and in more ways than one. The scoreboard probably flattered Sydney in the end. They only kicked 2 behinds, I believe, in that second half. And that's when they had most of their back line out, and they had a lot of injuries back then in that game. They do have a much better squad now, and Buddy and Tom McCartan could be back for the clash. And yeah, obviously they'll be pretty revved up for it as well, especially seeing they scored the double ton last week to give their finals chances. They're definitely still alive, but they have to win this game. The Swans, you can argue that they have had a decent little month, the Swans, but nothing really too special, and they are below the pack, just like Richmond, so they have to win this game, really. And Geelong as well. They are just outside the 8 at the moment. They've been pretty good this season. Last week was a fairly good game for them in the wet. They stepped up and they played some pretty good footy. Gary Rowan led the way with 4 goals. He was really good. And unfortunately, Jeremy Cameron got concussed and has done apparently a shoulder injury as well, so he'll be out for some time, so that's a bad blow for Geelong. But Savarati Galea and Paddy Dangerfield are predicted to be back for this game, which are big boosts for them. If they do win, they could possibly go into the 8, depending on other results around them. And it's a real 50-50 one. I give the Swans a real chance. I know they've had bad runs of late against Geelong, but I give the Swans a chance. But in the 50-50 games of late, I haven't been tipping Geelong. So I feel like I've got to go Geelong here by 14 points. But my big call, Sydney lead for 55% or more of the match. I think they'll probably be, I want to say, majority of the time the better side. Now, the first of the Saturday clashes is the Roos taking on the Crows. Now, North Melbourne are coming off a bye, and they haven't won in something like 12 weeks now, so they're starting to get pretty desperate. But their last month before the bye was pretty good against, Collingwood. They were all right. Against Essendon, they were probably the better of the two, and especially at if you ignore the first quarter, they were probably the better team in that one. They played all right against the Giants, nothing too special. And against the Dogs, they were probably just out-grunted in the end. But this one, they're away at home against away from home at Marvel. They've played really well recently at Marvel North. But this one's at Adelaide Oval at the Crows. The Crows have been fantastic. They actually performed. They're probably one of the best teams that have probably performed the best after the bye. And Tex Walker's in flying form. He's kicked 15 goals in these last 2 outings. So, yeah, you got to watch out for him. He's probably the Coleman almost favourite now, I want to say, with Jeremy Cameron out and Curnow out of form. So, yeah, Tex, you got to look out for him. And I think Adelaide will win this game pretty comfortably by 56 points. My big call, Tex kicks 6 or more goals. Now, and next we got Bulldogs versus Freo. This is another crucial game for both teams, because the Dogs need to keep winning to stay in the 8, and Freo need to keep winning to get into the 8. Now, Freo are just one of those teams this season that have just played well at times, but played really poorly at times, and you just don't know what you're going to get, whether you get the bad Freo or the good Freo. And, well, last week we got the good Freo, and at home as well. It was a really good performance by them. Luke Jackson was really good. Their midfield was very, very strong. Definitely responded after the game against the Giants, and we all knew that it was going to respond. Jai Amos was also good up forward, so, and Walters as well. So they've certainly got a good team at the moment. In my opinion, the defence for Freo probably got them over the line in that one. Their defence was very, very solid and has been all year. Probably the best performance almost of the season there for Freo. If they keep doing that, they will make the 8. And the Dogs have just got to find ways past their backline woes at the moment, with Liam Jones out. Ed Richards and Johannesson are still quite a while away at the moment. So, they'll be bringing in some tools, you'd think, for this game. And it's definitely an area at the moment where the Dogs lack. Especially with Bones Jones now, he's now out for a long period of time. So, yeah, they've just got to find a way, the Dogs, to win this game. It is at Marvel, so they do get the home ground advantage, even though Freo do play well at Marvel. Freo are a good team, but if we get the good Freo, I see them winning this game. But I'm going to have to go the Dogs for now, though my tip could change. I'll go the Dogs by 8 points. My big call, the Dogs come from behind at 3/4 time and win the game. And the next game, a real underrated one in my opinion. I reckon it will be a really tight, close affair. Up at Heritage Bank, it's the Gold Coast taking on my Pies. Now the Pies, you could argue, got out of jail again. Not for the first time in the last couple of years, against the Crows. There with a missed free kick. Jordan Dawson apparently getting robbed for the Crows there. Anyways, the Pies were still probably the better team on the day, ignoring the third quarter. The defence for the Pies was really, really good in the first half. Our forward line as well was pretty good in the first half and pretty good all day. So yeah, we just need another good performance, and we could probably cruise past the Suns here. The Suns, they just really needed to get back at Heritage Bank, didn't they? They hadn't been there for 2 months. I think their last performance up there at Heritage Bank was possibly even against Melbourne a couple months ago now. That they're a really different side up there, the Suns, and yeah, I feel like the Gold Coast are a real side that conditions and in terms of heat and stuff matter for them because they train up there. That they just seem to play really, really well in those circumstances, and they absolutely pulverised the Hawks last week. I do give them a shot at this, though. I think the Pies have just got to find a way to win this one and scrap through it and win by 15 points. And my big call, both daicoses, Nick and Josh, combined for 70 disposals or more and 3 goals. And next, in my opinion, this is going to be game of the round. Port Adelaide versus Essendon at the MCG. Port Adelaide coming off a bye, so we all know what happened this season with all the teams coming off a bye. They've all seemed to play shaky. Essendon have been, fairly solid up until that last week performance against Freo. Their defence wasn't great. They just looked like they were just running second to the ball, really, and just were out-grunted by Freo in the end, and they definitely need a response. It is at the G, so you've got to give Essendon a chance, and I personally think this is going to be a big upset and end Port's big streak. And I reckon Essendon will win by 2 points. My big call, Nick Martin has 30 or more disposals to continue his superb season on the wing for Essendon. And next, we got Hawthorn versus Carlton. A very interesting clash on the first game of the Sunday. Now, it will definitely be a tricky one to predict, seeming both teams have been a bit weird this season. Hawthorn have had a really good month up until last week's performance after the bye. They just had a really bad performance, just like most teams have after the bye. They just got to find a way to bounce back because Sam Mitchell just said after the game it was just shocking to watch, really. And we let our fans down today, basically. And Hawks need to respond after that performance. Now, Carlton are coming off the bye, so, the bye curse this season might come into play for them. They were good, though, last outing at the G against Gold Coast. They played really, really well. And in this one, I think I'm going to go Hawthorn because if we get Carlton that played against Gold Coast, they'll probably win. But I don't think that will happen. So I'm going to tip Hawthorn by 10 points. And my big call, Hawthorn kick the first 3 goals of the game. Now, we got a very interesting clash up at Teo Traeger Park. The first game up there for the season, and probably the only one, I believe. It's Melbourne taking on GWS. Now, GWS are coming off the bye. So like I said, all the teams that seem to be coming off the bye seem to just do shocking at the moment. And Melbourne, they weren't great last week either, so they are definitely exposed in their defence. I mean, their defence was so good against Collingwood, though, so you just wonder why it just wasn't good against against Geelong. And yeah, the rain definitely didn't help them. A lot of their goals came from scrappiness, and Geelong's goals were just a lot cleaner, and they were always going to win that game, Geelong, even with Melbourne being up by 7 points at three-quarter time. Now, Melbourne have they're definitely a top 4 side still. GWS, they were pretty good before the bye as well, so they'll be carrying in a bit of form. Though it's not up at the Giants Stadium, where they seem to just play really, really well up there at the moment. Toby Green's been carrying them all season, really. But I think I do see the Giants performing well, but I'm going to tip Melbourne by 19 points, but my big call, GWS lead at any break. And then the final game in the round, definitely one that most people won't be tuning into, and the main reason is it's a West Coast game, and they're up against the Saints at home, though. Their last 2 performances, West Coast, both before and after the bye, have been shocking. Absolutely dreadful. They conceded 200 points and 174, so they've conceded 374 points in their last 2 outings. It's just been shocking, and Adam Simpson, they're backing him in. They have got full faith in him, but at the moment, West Coast are just in shambles everywhere. There's just players not trying anywhere over the ground. And I don't think the injuries is even the problem for this club. And like most people are saying at the moment, the number one pick for this season will not solve West Coast problems. They are in absolute shambles. And St Kilda haven't been in great form either. They've been probably the worst performing side, I want to say, in the top 8 in the last good month, I reckon. I mean, they played well against the Swans when most people thought Sydney were going to win that. But they played well there. And I feel like St Kilda kind of need this game, to be honest. And I feel like they'd be pretty happy and relieved that they do have a fairly easy team. And it might play them into form because West Coast are just that bad at the moment. They've got to win this game by a big margin to just prove that they're a decent team still, the Saints. I reckon the Saints win it by 72 points. And my big call, St Kilda kicked 10 first half goals. So yeah, and then that's the round 16. We got all 9 games returning now. The bye rounds are over. What interesting bye rounds they have been as well. I feel like most teams would be pretty happy that the bye rounds are over. I hope you guys enjoyed the predictions and stay tuned for next week's predictions.